Okay, we're coming back with the sensory marketing. This was about section 3. We discussed about chapters 5 and chapter 6 of sensory marketing. Let's start in the chapter 5. Okay, so chapter 5 is about sensory principle for smell. Continue with the other sense that we have discussed in the previous sensory marketing chapter. So this chapter will give an overview of the sense of smell and its importance in sensory marketing, especially since the characteristic of smell, its role in different cultures, and as well the significance of the olfactory cues and stimuli for brands, products, and also the service environment will be analyzed and discussed in this chapter. Okay, our table content will include 5 parts, mainly the human nose and smelling, characteristic of smell, olfactory perceptions, and societal cultures, smell in service environment, and also smell in brand products. So let's move in with the first part, which is human nose and smelling. So the first part, the human nose and smelling. So just like any other sense that we have discussed in the early chapter, before learning how to apply the sense into the marketing context, we need to understand how it has an impact on us first as a human, and in this case, psychologically and psychologically. So actually, the strongest sense for memory and emotions are the ability to smell. So the ability to smell developed before birth is in contrast with the visions, which take years to fully develop. This suggests like a foundation role for smell in early development and memory formations. Secondly, because smell are like tightly linked to the brain limbic system, which control memories and emotions. So therefore, individual can remember the scent from their early childhood and believe them associated with the happiness and joys emotions. And there's a study that found that 75% of our daily emotions are influenced by scent. And also a study by Rockefeller University also showing that people can actually remember 35% of what they smell compared to only 5% of what they see and 2% of what they hear. And also, we need to mention about the unconscious influence of scent because fragrance unconsciously impact the individual moods, like positive or negative. Because, like I've said, it linked to the limbic system, and the limbic system is the most basic brain system in our body, and therefore the retail store actually use this strategically to create a welcoming atmosphere that encourage a longer visit and shopping for a customer just by using the scent. And also scent and odors, both artificial or natural, will influence the individual cognitions, emotions, and also behavior. Let's take an example to wrap up this part. So imagine like we walk into the bakery and suddenly feel happy and comfortable, not just because we are hungry, not actually that taste, but actually because the smell of the fresh bread reminds us of our grandmother kitchens. And when we were a child, and didn't plan to stay long, but the cozy scent make you linger, close more, and even make you buy something that you didn't intend to, like a baguette, something like that, bread. So that is how powerful this example showing how powerful the scent can be when using strategically in the environment, in service environment, and by tapping into your memories, emotions, and also behavior without us even noticing it. Okay, so in the next part of the human nose and smelling, we discuss the sensory marketing and the applications of scent in sensory marketing. So the scent marketing refers to how a company will use scent in their marketing activities and strategies. Simple like that. Therefore, the scent have actually a crucial role in attention attractions because scent actually play a vital role in grabbing attention and attracting individual to brand and product because scents are processed by brain very quickly because like I said, it linked to the limbic system, blah blah, and it can capture attentions even when we're not consciously aware of them. And therefore retail and brand use appealing aromas to draw customer into store and towards the particular products that they want. For example, the bakery might use smell freshly baked bread outside or near the entrance to attract the passengers passerby to go into the store and take a look around the store. And also, we need to discuss about the influence of scent on behavior because scent stimulates cognitions, emotions, and therefore impact the purchase behavior. Thus, pleasant or relevant scent can influence the shopper thinking and emotional state, like I discussed in the example of the bakery that reminds you of grandma. And often, if it's stimulates and influence our thinking and emotion, it will encourage the positive associations with the brain. So yeah, so in terms of cognitions first, okay. So scent, basic example scents like peppermint are known to stimulate the alertness and helping customer to make a decision more quickly. So that's one thing that scents might influence our cognitions. Secondly, about emotions, right? So, for example, vanilla or lavenders might make customer more relaxed. And thirdly, the purchase behavior, how it influences purchase behavior. So company might choose scent that align with their brand identity to elicit emotions that lead to higher sales. And this part we'll discuss later in the further parts of the chapter. And um, so, in conclusion, uh, by influence our cognitions, emotion, and behavior, scent actually increase our engagement. So, ambition scent in the retail environment influence shopper to touch to stay longer and not increase the purchase. As discussed before, therefore, it normally naturally increase our engagement to the store or the brands. So, like example, a store selling a leather good, we might use a faint leather aroma to make products more appealing and stimulate the sensory explorations of customer when walking into the store. So, in the next part, the second part, the characteristics of smell, we discuss about the psychological aspect of smell first. So, all of us actually perceive and experience scent and odors directly through our nose, right? And its olfactory cells. So, the olfactory cells and its let's talk about olfactory cells and its capacities. So, human actually have around 5 million olfactory cells in the nasal cavity. So, these cells can detect more than a trillion scents and each scent is specialized in identifying individual scent, and no transformations of scent occurs as it travels to the brain. So what we smell directly to our nose will appear exactly the same in our brains. So let's talk about the sensory organ structures of smell of the nose. So the nasal cavity sensory organ is very detailed and small, as you can see in the pictures, and it locates it at the top of the cavity. So therefore, it consists of three floors. The structures of this nose consist of three floors. Normal, like normal breathing of us, we use the bottom two floor, and while holding up the nose and send air to, and it will send air to the third floor. So it provides clear perceptions of smell or scent, and therefore we detect clear the odors of the outside world. So let's take an example of this three floor of smell to make it clear. So think of like we're tasting soup. We're tasting soup. So normal breathing, like floor 1 and 2, is when you sip the soup, and then you get a basic warmth and a basic flavor of the soup have. So, but however, when we uh, take the dish very close to our nose and we have a very deep sniff, it will come right into floor 3. So therefore, we will suddenly pick up the subtle hint of basil or garlic that we didn't notice before. And that is the structures of the sensory organ of smell. Now moving on to the smelling process in the brain. Okay, so actually, like when we look at the pictures, we'll see the olfactory bulbs. So the olfactory bulbs is the brain basic odor areas. First, we receive the electrical signals from the olfactory cells, we discussed before, and then the signal will send to a specific brain part of us, and therefore it's processed in the cortical cortex to characterize the scent that we have just smelled in. So that is the process of how we smell in the brain. Next, so actually humans can perceive and remember an unbelievable amount of different scent combination because we have a lot of olfactory cells and both like just discussed before. So this synthetic sense, like the smell, is like synthetic sense because meaning that two distinct scents like chocolate or licorice can be perceived as a very new and distinguished scent from the other two. And this will combine smell like a single choco analyzed aroma. So the new scent will often richer and darker and more complex than just two scents like chocolate and liquor. So that's about synthetic scent. So we're talking about speed perceptions. Like our nose, our scent, smell scent, takes approximately 400 milliseconds, like half a second, for the brain to detect and recall a specific scent, compared to vision, which needs 45 milliseconds. So the smell is actually the slowest of the five senses to be detected by the brain. But however, like I've said, the sense linked to the brain limbic system, which processing the memory and emotion. Therefore, sense, although the slowest of five senses to be detected by the brain, is actually will be remembered better than the visual image and other sense. Lastly is about the trigeminal stimulations. So some sense experience will involve trigeminal stimulations, like the burning, for example, you will hear the burning feelings of ammoniac and the coldness of the mint is called trigeminal stimulations. So this is the separate sensory input from the trigeminal nerve linked to pain, to the temperatures, and to the touch of our body and our brain. So I'll move to another part talking about the psychological aspect of the characteristic of smell. So the first thing we need to discuss is the about how our brain affective responses to scent. So an individual who learns how scent should be connected to their previous experience, leading to hedonic, like the hedonic is the pleasure or displeasure scent perceptions of them. So that's called the associate learning. So it links the scent with the past experience. And therefore scent can cause an emotional state associating with the past experience of us. So, like for example, just take an example to make it clear about what I mean affective response. So, um, like we as a kid actually love the smell of gasoline. So because the scent of gasoline might excite someone, especially children, because it reminds them of the childhood road trip with the big family. So whenever we hear the scent of gasoline of the car passing by, we get excited. So that's what I mean the effective response of scent. So moving on to the cognition response of scent. So hedonic scent perceptions impact mood and can influence cognitive behavior have said in the previous part. So individual with a pleasant mood, influenced by sense, of course, will show a higher creativity. So that is the response about cognitions, right? So and also the problem solving ability of them will also improve when they have a pleasant ambient sense were introduced in the service environment they are in. And also talking about the employee too can also have, if they are in a pleasing sense environment, they will have more effective work strategies, high goals, and a better comparison to their colleagues in the non-sense environment. Therefore, let's sum up about the effects of sense on humans in total. So the first one is the perceptual process and adaptations. So identify sense or and others is relatively slow perceptual process like I have discussed before. It takes more time for the brain to detect sense than other no sense of us like visions or touch or anything else. And the duration of scent and odors can also varies due to the airflow and the temperatures of this environment. So let's take an example. When you enter a room with strong scents like incense or perfume, a room full of perfume scent, you notice it immediately when you walk into that room. But just after like a few minutes, you will stop noticing it as your nose and your olfactory sensory become familiar with the scent. So that's why that is the perceptual process and adaptations of our scent. And also, the duration of the perceptual process is kind of doubtful today because individual will adapt slowly to a scent environment. After some time, the awareness of scent will disappear like chocolate core. So therefore, it making it possible to neutralize strongly scent environment like a coffee beans in the perfume store. So actually, many retail store and many products in selling store also apply this into their physical store too. Because, for example, like in the perfume store, customer often smell like multiple fragrance and quickly lose sensitivities. And to reset their sense of smell, they will be given some coffee bean to sniff, and this will help them neutralize the olfactory receptors and therefore allows them to perceive new scents more accurately after adapting to the previous one. So moving on to the third part, which will discuss about olfactory perceptions and societal cultures. So now the first raising questions is what is olfactory perception first? We need to clarify this before going to deeper in this part. So According to the definition in textbook, olfactory perception is how the individual will receive and therefore interpret uh, or no, understand the existing olfactory cues and stimuli in the environment. Therefore, because each different have different preferences, have different minds, different backgrounds, so each person will understand the smell in their own ways. So we talk about the cultural norms and societal perceptions. So societal cultures will define what is a good or a bad smell, a bad scent. So like body sweat or old food or garbage odors will have different meanings across societal cultures and are perceived or experienced differently. So let's take a look at the example I'll show you in the pictures right away. You can see. So in much of the Southeast Asia, like Thailand, Malaysia, or Vietnam, the durian fruit is prized for its rich, custody flavor, but it's often described by outsiders, especially in the Western country people, that it have a rotten onion or garbage smell. I can't understand what they talk about doing like that. But yeah, is the example of how like societal cultures influence what is bad or a good scent, a good smell. So let's talk about the first individual preference in this part. So everyone they will have a unique scent identity and they perceive scent in a different way, like I talking before. So therefore, each person would choose different fragrance to represent them. So some people like men, they love some spicy scent, spicy fragrance, but for women, some women they will love the sweetness, or like me, I will love want a very cool perfume. I prefer a very cool taste perfume. So that is the fragrance fingerprint. But it's fragrance fingerprint. Secondly, about the hedonic evaluations, like or dislike. So individual will evaluate scent hedonically, like or dislike, rather than like truly analytical approval of the scent. They will never raise a question whenever they smell some scent that okay, so what kind of scent is well, this is combined of the mint scent and no combined with chocolate. They don't think like that. They just think, oh, this scent is kind of weird or like that. That's how they think about scent. And thirdly, we talk about the familiarity and intensities of scent. So individual perceptions of scent is actually influenced by its familiarity, intensity, and pleasantness. So often a familiar or known scent by us will generally prefer more than completely unique or new smell, new scent. So we prefer what's familiar scent for us. So talking about learning in eight, so the questions like uh, a very debatable questions of whether the sense preference are innate or learned is actually a debate over uh, the context of sense and smell in the scientific field. So one view they said that okay, humans have some predisposition for liking or disliking certain type of food and scent. So like for example, they said that okay, newborn babies perceive and react to food smell using their facial expressions, just like a few hours after birth. So therefore, it's suggesting like an early, perhaps innate connection to feeding, how they want to feeding them. So therefore, it creates their predisposition, liking or disliking of the scent. Another view, they said that okay, scent preference actually learned and not innate. So there's studies showing that individual perceptions of fragrance are not innate because children, the second children can prefer best smell. So they are just like two no opposite view about how scent is learned or innate in the scientific fields that are still debatable. And now we're moving on to how age and gender actually influence the scent of humans. So I'll talk about scent about age first. So sensitivities to scent actually start to deteriorate around the age of 15 to 20. So therefore, among the older shopper, the willingness to make purchase significantly decrease when there are a ambient scent applied in the service environment. So that is how age influence the sensitivity to scent and therefore influence the service environment, how the service environment work. Talk about gender. So there are studies showing that women olfactory perceptions actually generally stronger than men's. Women's sensitivity to scent is influenced by their menstrual cycle. like ovulation period will make women up to 10,000 times more sensitive than men. So it's basically uh, like explained by the biological difference between men and women. And therefore, because it is more sensitive, women may suffer from oversensitive to scent, therefore leading to illness or nodules. Okay, next part talking about group preference. So individuals from different societal cultures will perceive and prefer scent and others differently because olfactory perceptions like a cultural phenomenon influence how individual might perceive scent or others differently, like the example I showed you about the durians. And uh, it also relates to a high emotional context because in a high emotional context, highly culture specific scent will associate often develop. And it will illustrate the importance of an individual or societal cultures in understanding the meaning of scent. So the brain and companies should take it into account when they consider applying scent marketing in the company. Mm. And also, like the cultural associations in the table 5.1. So the table provide excellent example of how like different cultures will associate a specific scent with various contexts, like mentioned before, like a clean place and clean place, happy celebrity, sad or funeral. Like for example, the funeral incense. So in Vietnam, like the sharp, the senior scent of the burning incense at funeral will immediately evoke a grief and respect to the passed away people. But oppositely to that, in some Western country, the church smell, the flowers and stone smell will represent funeral, not the within a sense of burning incense like in Vietnam. So this is the how scents uh, differently perceived in different cultures. Talking about scent symbolism, shall we? So uh, there are one effect, so-called tip of the nose effect, which is the difficulty in giving a symbolic label or word to an others, even if it is possible to like differentiate between experience scent before. So we are hard to actually label or talking about one scent. So therefore, it's accept that a special scent can evoke an individual emotionally memory in the sense that forgettable experience suddenly appears in the mind. Also, I talk about invisible symbol. So like fragrance or perfume or incense symbolize powers and strength in our society. So whenever we smell someone fragrance, we'll immediately think, oh, this person must have money to buy perfume. So that's how scents actually influence and symbolize power and strength. Talk about multi-sensory experience. So the beforehand chapter we also mentioned that all five senses will working together to create a multi-sensory experience. So when we pair what we see with a related smell, our brain will weave them into just a single richness sense instead of like two separate sensations taken by our eyes and our nose. Like example, when we step into a bánh mì stall at dawn, and therefore we see the golden baguette in the display, and therefore we instantly smell the warm bread, pate, and the pickled veggie together. So our brain fuse sight and scent just into one Saigon breakfast feeling, not just two separate sensations. But okay, I see the bánh mì and I smell the pate, not like that, which we combine together and think of, oh, it's the bánh mì breakfast feeling. So that's how multisensory work. Therefore, scent, like I said, as an invisible symbol, will continue to play an important role in giving like meaning in personal and societal, so social context. So they work on a more subtle level when it comes to unconscious perceptions. And like, for example, the Chanel No. 5 perfume has longer been considered as a symbol of elegancy and femininity, like a message unspoken yet deeply felt through its scent. So it's how scent actually work in society cultures and no the society. Okay, let's move to the next part about service environments. Now in service environment. So the first part we talk about olfactory stimulators. So about the purpose. So company will apply scent and fragrance in their service environment, like a lot of us, like hotel, restaurant, retail store, shopping mall, they all apply like scent in their environments, their shopping environment. to actually creating pleasant and appealing atmosphere for the customer to make them more relaxed and evoke the emotional. So the impact of the olfactory stimuli, the scent, in this case, enable effective cognitive and also behavioral reactions among customer in the environment. For example, in the casino, they will introduce the ambient scent in the casino. Therefore, it will lead to a significant increase of game play in the slot machine. So that is how we apply scent in the service environment to actually evoke the cognitive, affective, and lead to the behavior of the customer. Also, uh, the scent in service environment actually enhances perceptions and memorability. So a service is perceived as more concrete and tangible. Service is a very intangible aspect of business. We can see it, we just can feel it. So actually, the scent will make service more concrete and tangible in the mind of the customer. This will result in a more memorable shopping experience for the customer. And also, the ambient scent as an olfactory cues and stimuli will be represent case I'm talking about how can it turn service into a tangible and concrete characteristic among customer. So now we discuss about ambient scent, how it can do it, how it can turn service into a tangible and concrete things. So the definitions of ambient scent is that ambient scent will influence the individual olfactory perceptions of the service environment and will significantly affect cognitions, emotions, and actual behaviors. So it's like the sense that we unconsciously perceive in our smells and it therefore affect our cognition, emotion, and actual behavior. So according to uh, Nugas and Block in 1995 study, the ambient scent, they break it down in two aspects. First is directly linked to an object, such as the body odors or the staff member or the smell of a specific product like a detergent. Secondly, it will be a part of the overall physical environment. And in this aspect, the scent will represent all the products and all the service in the service environment, aiming to create an engaging atmosphere for the customer. And because in the service environment, there are many different types of products and category, the ambient scent actually should be applied in any physical service environment to create an overall pleasant and appealing atmosphere for the customer. So it lean more over the second aspect of ambient scent. So, and also when ambient scent apply in service environment, access includes the customer, right? So the effect may include making customer stay longer. They will have more positive evaluation of brand, products, and service. Also, it increases the intention to return, stay longer, and spend more with the customer. And to so and to actually having those effects on
Scents
customer
can actually encourage
not
more
simply
flexible
just
and
variety
apply
seeking behavior when some
customer
random
wish
scent in your
search
service
for as a
environment.
table product.
Actually, the scents
Scents
be
should be
concurrent,
product specific
so
scent.
olfactory concurrence in the service
Is the crucial
environments like
factor.
boutique cafes, which
Market
means a scent
will
actually
influence
should
the
match
customer
the product
perceptions and
or the service being
experience of
offered
brands
and the
So by
service.
Spain,
Also, in
sense
2006,
product
they found out when the ambient
actually refer
scent
to how
matched the
natural
product
scent will
category,
match with a
product
product
evaluation
like an
actually
orange
increased up
should
to
smell like an orange.
25%, and the purchase
And
intentions
will
also in the
grows
closed
up
environment,
to
the
20%.
environments that have no sense like a fashion or electronic store, ambient scent can still shape experience, but it must be carefully
And
choose to fit
in
space.
this case,
Like I said, the olfactory
for
concurrence
example,
is
how
very
the
important
retail
in physical
or
environments when
the
applying scent.
store should apply.
So, like imagine when you
concurrence
approach
into
into
a
a
kitchen
physical
appliance
environment,
showroom
is that, for example,
that had
the
no
flowers
natural
should smell
smell.
like, and to
Flower
make it feel like
and
real home
restaurant
kitchen,
should smell like
they
freshly
diffuse
cooked
the
not
smell and
unrelated
diffuse
scent
a soap like scent, actually
before making
enable to
pictures
foster
of
a
yourself
olfactory
cooking at home
concurrence
in
in
the
the
kitchen.
service environment. And so we prefer the familiar things.
And
So
to actually
having
it make a
no
feel
inviting
effect
familiar,
on customer,
therefore
it's not simply just
encourage
apply
our purchase some
decisions.
random scent in your service environment.
So a scent associations
Actually,
with
the
the store
scent
product and
must
service
be
in a
concurrent.
knowledge testing can
So
lead to a
effective
positive customer response.
is a crucial
And
factor as
however,
well.
a
Which
pleasant
means a
but
scent
unrelated
actually
scent
should
might
match the
trigger
product
negative
or the
emotions
service
or
being offered.
behavior.
So by
It should be
Spain consider
in
very carefully when
2006,
applying
they found out
scent
when the
into
ambient
the
scent
tourist
matched
environment.
the product category, Product evaluation. So talking about scent associations. So scents can actually encourage more flexible and variety-seeking behavior when customers reach search for a suitable product. So scents should be product-specific scent in the service environments like boutique cafes, markets. It will influence the customer perceptions and experience of brands and the service. Also, the scents product resemblance actually refer to how natural scent will match with a product, like an orange should smell like an orange. And also in the odorless environment, the environments that have no scent like a fashion or electronic store, ambient scent can still shape experience, but it must be carefully choose to fit the space. Like I've said, the olfactory concurrence above is very important in physical environments when applying scent. So, like imagine when you're approaching to a kitchen appliance showroom, and that had no natural smell, and to make it feel like a real home kitchen, they diffuse the store will diffuse a soap-like scent before making pictures yourself cooking at home in the kitchen. And so we prefer the familiar things. So it make it feel inviting and familiar. Therefore, encourage our purchase decisions. So ascend associations with the store product and service in an adolescent setting can lead to a positive customer response. And however, a pleasant but unrelated scent might trigger negative emotions or behavior. So it should be considered very carefully when applying scent into the adolescent environment. Mood to mood and behavior how scent influence these two things. So many believe that scent influence both mood and the purchase behavior of the customer. Like table I show you below, the citrus scent can improve mood and cognitive performance. The mint scent can reduce stress and increase mental concentration for the former, etc. So the scent will contribute to establish a positive perception of the physical service environment, like I talked before, and therefore by that it will impact the mood of the customer and therefore indirectly influence their perceptions of the quality and the different products of the different product and service. That's how it's influenced mood and then therefore influence the purchase behavior of customer. And also the emotional associations with scent can be triggers mood and behavioral response to emotional associations that talk about before is the link between scent and the past experience. And although it is unclear if they are but in this case, it is unclear that if they are due to the past sense memory. Because, for example, we are like if you are coffee lovers, you uh, you will drawn to the rich aroma of freshly ground beans from a coffee shop, and it will trigger your positive, fun, and satisfying emotions whenever you hear and you smell the freshly ground bean scent from the coffee shop. About scent concurrence, like I said, how well a scent will match the store environment or brand image is very important. And when the scents are concurrent, customer will spend more time in the store, feel more positive, and possess more information about the products. And also, about gender matching is also important and also matter in this case of service environment because scents that match both the products, like I said, concurrence is good, and if it's also match the target gender, it will create a much more stronger positive effect on the customer. Like the feminine fragrance was introduced in the women department, for example, will trigger a much more positive effect on customer. Finally, one aspect to be mentioned is the scent intensity. So you should take into mind that even mid-scent not need to be intensive or need to be too clear, uh, can also affect mood and buying behavior of the customer. And scent doesn't have to be strong to be effective. So that is about scent intensity. Talk about scent symbolisms. So the ambient scent in the physical service setting can act as symbol of the past sense memory which relates to emotional association I've talked before, it will enrich the customer century experience because it's believed that scent supports comfort and well-being of customer in service environment. Like some relaxing scent could be basil, cinnamon, citrus, lavender. Some refreshing scent could be peppermint, thyme. Romantic scent could be cardamoms or chocolate. And for example, vanilla is like a very strong scent symbol, and it will use in a lot of perfumes. And vanilla often links to childhood memory. Uh, Childhood memory, the kindness, the warm simplicities of the childhood. And in a broader cultures, pure vanilla can symbolize honesty and purity. So it's kind of linked with childhood because as a child we're very honest and pure. And therefore, by using vanilla in the service environment, it will increase positive shopping behavior and including more purchase and spending of the customer because it reduces the fear and stress in the medical environment, and also reduce stress and fear in the medical environments like waiting room and MRI scan. So by linking to the past experience, by linking to the childhood memory, the calm, brightness, the glitzy, it's actually vanilla actually make customer feel more relaxed. So that's how scents work in the service environment. Okay, moving to the last part, which is smell in brands and products. We talk about first, as before, the olfactory stimuli in brands and products. So scents are used to build like emotional connection between brands, products, and the customer. It's practically known as the sense manipulations, and scent will help give a brand the identity that sets it apart from the competitors too. Because, like, for example, an ambient scent can affect the overall perceptions of a brand in the service space, like we have discussed before. And therefore, a product scent, however, is directly linked to a specific brand or products. So this fosters the whole pictures about the brand and the product itself too. So that is scent as factory symbolized in brands and products. For example, the smell of freshly baked cinnamon buns in the coffee shop has been shown to evoke a strong emotional reaction, like arousals, in some context of the customer. And we also have some types of product sets. First is the primary product attributes. So it's the sense that central directly to the product itself and influence the attentions and purchase decisions of the customer. It's common like perfume, commonly in some products like perfume, air freshener, or hygiene products. Uh, the second one is the secondary product attribute, which is the sense that not essentially but is added to create the emotional connection to the brand. So it's often used in the normal dualist products. For example, like many car brands will may add many signature scents to trigger the brand recall because car do not have scent. Yes. And thirdly is about advertising and self-promotions measures. So scents can also be used in outside the product, like for example in the marketing environment, to actually promote a sensory experience that link directly to the brand. So in some case, customer would prefer natural scents like a new car smells, and expecting that the specific scent experience with the certain product. Secondly, scent in advertising. We're talking about scent in advertising. So scent can be represent visually in ads using image or illustrations that connect it to the individual past sense experience and emotional associations, like positive or negative, like we talked in the previous section. So, scent in advertising is often used to create a buzz around a product or brand through formats like a scented billboard or a scented magazine, newspaper, or a scented signage. And a very uh, famous illustration, famous case study for scent in advertising. We're talking about McDonald McRib billboard campaign. Like it's a perfect illustrator of how scent-based outdoor advertising can turn into like a simply roadside display, turn into a full sensory experience for the customer. Because McDonald once ran a roadside billboard for the new McRib, new product of it, that the billboard like pump out smoky barbecue notes whenever a car rolled by. So the image was showing a juicy sandwich with whips of smoke, and the whip of smoke like represent the BBQ flavors, BBQ scent in the grip, and your window will fill with that grill aroma before you even orders the grips at McDonald's. So that is a very clever way to actually use scent in advertising of McDonald's. Lastly, scent in product evaluations. So scents are powerful olfactory stimuli that strongly trigger memory and emotional associations, like I talked before. So the more effective is it more effective than other scents like vision, sounds, and touch or taste in creating memorable and emotional experience. And therefore, this makes scent strategies valuable for companies in enhancing brand identity and influence how products are actually evaluated. So some key search finding that showing how scent better the product evaluation process of customer. For example, like women would like a floral scent silk stocking more than unscented one. So especially because the usual stocking has an unpleasant smell. So if there's smell, the uh, woman customer will like it more. Also, by Bond and Ellen in 1998, scratch and sniff ads can cause a negative valuation if the scent does not match the advertiser's product. Let's talk about the incorrect scent. Or and also when the room of the service environment smell pleasant, people actually spend more time looking for and look at the products and therefore remember the brand better. Okay, so now we have the example of the scented and unscented pencil. So we found out that the scented pencil lead to a better memory of product information in both long and short term conform, uh, con- compared to the unscented pencil. And also, we'll talk about scented facial tissues in the scented room. So a product scent had a stronger effect than an ambient scent in the product's memory. So if you want to create a memorable experience for the customer about the product, you should have the product scent other than the ambient scent. The ambient scent is used for the whole physical environment, the whole brand, the whole stores. And also the product scent will create a lasting association with other attributes of the products even 2 weeks later. So if you want customer to remember the product, make the product have smell, not the environment. Now we talk about scent in your service. So it's more complex because service are very and intangible things. You can see it, you can touch it, and therefore it has been suggested that service could become clearer and more visible by applying scent in physical service environments that I talked before, and therefore making it a memorable things to customer. So the service company should consider 4 important aspects before adding the service scent into their offerings. So first thing is that should a scent be present or absent in the service environment? And secondly, the pleasantness or unpleasantness of the scent. Thirdly, how does the scent fit with the actual service provided? It must be concurrent, like I said. And lastly is how should the relationship between the scent and the individual memory be expressed in creating the association with service through memory or through emotional. That's a scent in service. Lastly, we talk about scent symbolisms. So company use product scent to symbolize brand identity, helping customer build emotional connections and memories with the brand. Like in the previous part, because scent are invisible, people actually rely on visual or verbal cues to interpret them. For example, in the Unilever Ace or Collins in some markets, the deodorant, deodorant campaign with a visual cue of the print ad features a dark coffee bottle set against a chromatic high contrast background will immediately signal a night owl or mysterious vibe of the Unilever's Unilever X. Therefore, a customer who saw and read the ad will expect a sexy, musky spice scent of that product. And also, a scent brand or official brand is like a scent registered as a trademark legally. So, showing how scent can become a strategic brand asset. So, uh, actually, some company have registered a scent as a trademark legally for their own brand only, and therefore it become like a unique asset of the brand. So in order to be accepted for registrations for the trademark legally, it must be clearly described. The scent style must be clearly described and distinguished from the other products of other brands. And also, it should not be a natural scent. The scent that exists in natural and is not created by the brand itself, like a banana or a coffee scent, cannot be registered at trademark legally unless a unique smell is proven. So a unique smell is that the smell that the company creates based on the all the natural smell combining together. So a example that illustrates this trademark is the uh, mm, Verizon's flower musk scent of Verizon. So Verizon will register a flower musk scent to create a unique retail experience in stores. Verizon's like in electronic retail store. So the scent will help differentiate Verizon stores from other electronic retailers. So in 2014, this scent was officially accepted as a legal trademark for Verizon's only. So it's a natural scent product like coffee bananas can usually register scent because the smell is a part of the product itself and it's not unique. And a scentless product like tennis ball can actually register scent if the scent is clearly distinctive. from other scents. Lastly, we talk about the signature scent. So signatures is like nothing related to like a trademark, like we talked before, trademark legally. It's not trademark, but it's actually closely linked to a brand image. So some brand image. So it's work like a logo, a color, or a font to build the recognition and emotional association from the customer to the brand. So the familiar sense can be powerful, even if not unique or protected by the trademark. So an example for this signature scent is Singapore Airlines. They will use a scent of Stephen Floridan's water. It's a blend of rose, lavender, and citrus in a flight attendant perfume, the cabinet interior, and hotel on board. So even though it's not a trademark, it has become deeply linked to Singapore Airlines experience throughout the customer journey, and the customer will remember this scent, the Stephen Floridan's water, is the scent of Singapore Airlines. So that's the end of the chapter 5. Now we move to chapter 6, the sensory principle for touch. So in this chapter, we'll give an like the previous one, overviews of sense of touch and its importance in sensory marketing, especially the characteristics of touch, its role in different cultures, and as well as the significance of technical cues and stimuli for brands, product, and service environment. Let's move to the table content. So just like the previous chapter, also have 5 main parts, which is human body and touching, characteristic of touch, technical perceptions, and societal cultures. Touch in service environments and also touch in brands and products. Let's move to the first part, human body and touching. So the first part, human body and touching. So touch is not only about like physical contact, it's also involved like physical, physio, physiological and psychological interactions between individuals and the product's brands. Like for example, when holding fresh baby gifts, you can feel the freshness through the textures of the crust, and or when touching a touch screens of the smartphone, assess the smoothness and how well it fits in our hands. So actually, touch will help us convey the sensory information, which will influence the customer cognitions, emotions, and purchase behaviors like the other sense. So let's take an example to make it clear, like example of high-end furniture store. So customer are invited to sit on a velvet covered sofa. So their hands will feel the softness of the fabric. It conveys sensory information about luxuries and retirement. Carving to deeper in details about cognition, emotions, and purchase behavior. For cognitions, when their fingers glide across the soft velvet, the customer will perceive a comfortable and sophistication, leading them to evaluate the products at highest quality and well-crafted sofa. Emotion. The soft, warm texture will make them feel relaxed and comfortable, creating a positive emotions towards the product. Lastly, about purchase behavior, the technical experience uh, trigger the desire to own sofa and recreate that comfort at home, therefore increasing the likelihood that the customer will purchase the sofa. Just how touch influence cognitions, emotions, and purchase behavior through the example I talked about. So also, according to Spence in 2014, touch is actually a key part in technical marketing. So, helping to create a sensory experience in both physical and virtual environments. So, for example, in Apple Store, they designed with modern sensory aesthetics like glass and steel and minimalist space, and therefore it's encourage customers to touch and interact with the product more. The sleek products of Apple, and also staff are trained to create a friendly, pressure-free atmosphere. Therefore, it's transforming the store into just a play space, exploration space for customer rather than just a space to shop. And in addition, touch is not only affects product interactions, but it also affects person-to-person interactions between people and people. So, for example, according to Williams and Batch in 2008, holding a warm cup of tea or coffee can make a person actually feel more friendly towards each other. And also, in a fashion store, if employees gently touching customer hands while handing the over a shirt, it can actually create a sense of friendliness and increasing customer satisfaction with the shopping experience in the customer mind. And lastly, in digital technological environments, it will be lack of the touch sense, and this is a major challenge for brands in stores, especially for like products like clothing or electronics or fashion, the one that need to be touched. You know? So therefore, company needs to find a way to overcome this limitation by applying tech. obviously, tech applications like AR, AI that turn the lack of technical experience to be lessons and ease the lack of them. But therefore, it's still there. It's still having a lack of technical experience, even though we apply technology. It can be like real, like we are in the physical store at that moment. Moving on to characteristic of touch, the second part, we'll talk about physiological aspect first. So when tactile senses are active in the human body, they also refers to as the haptic system. So the tactile sense that we experience is called haptic system. So the touch is activated when we are using our hands, our feet, our skin to come into contact with an object or another person. So in particularly, fingers and hands actually serve as a bridge between the brain and the external world and allowing us to perceive characteristics such as the temperatures, the textures, and the weight of objects and things around our world. Also, talk about the process, how we actually feel with our hands, feel with our skins, feel the objects, feel the things in our surface environments. What is the process of the feelings that bringing up into the brain? So the touch, starting with the first thing is touch receptors, such as the lamellate corpuscles, I don't know how to spell that, but are located in the dermis layer of the skin, and it will transmit signal to the sensory cortex, where the information is actually processed. And therefore, also to be mentioned is that the number of receptors and the distance between them actually affects the sensitivities of detected feelings of different persons. So, the second example, for example, the fingertips have a high density of touch receptors. Uh, so therefore, and these receptors actually in the finger actually spaced only a few millimeters apart. So it's make the fingertips of us far more sensitive like than the back, and where the receptor is spacing just like around uh, 70, 90 millimeters. And as a result, the brain sensory cortex dedicate more space to process signal from the fingers more than another parts of the human body. Talk about the haptic systems, shall we? So, now, like I said, the haptic system not only involve the skin, but also include the joint, the muscle, the tendons, all things that help us perceive the body movement and the positions, and it's also known as the kinesthetic sense. So the fingers and hands are the main tool for exploring objects, using movement such as wrapping around, controlling motions, and applying pressures to the objects. And also the haptic perceptions refer to the process of we by using those movements, wrapping, circle motions, applying pressures, they actually receive information about those movements and sensations of the body from the body. For example, feeling the roughness, softness, and stability of a chair based on showing the muscles response. Also, our haptic system actually will divide two kinds of touch, which is the active touch and the passive touch. So the active touch is considered in exploration sense because it's involved the intentional discovery and engagement of the humans to the things, the object, and the environment. The passive touch, on the other hand, can trigger the release of oxytocin, a hormone that promotes well-being, relaxation, and reduce stress. So it's not intentional, but it also have an effect, positive effect on our body, especially after like repeated touch. We touch it many times. So in general conclusions, if an individual wants to know more about a famous brand, they should feel it, they should pick up it, and they should hold it, as well explore it, and therefore it help them shape and uh, will explore its shape, its style with their fingertips. Therefore, this will help build a positive emotions and perceptions towards a product. So, if you want to buy some products, want to know more about it, you should use your active touch rather than passive touch. Okay. And now we'll talk about the psychological aspect of touch. So, the sense of touch will play an important role in individual intellectual development related to the cognitions and the emotions. Because these physical functions are shaped by the physical contact from the early childhood of us. So let's take it. Actually, from the early childhood, we know that touch is a way to express our empathy, like a pat on shoulder, a hug, that express our empathy, our emotions to others. Also, touch will stimulate alertness and physical well-being, like from Yes. Chiropractors, hairstylists, or a massage therapist. And also, touch will help identify and recognize object as a specific brand or product. So this is how touch work in the psychological aspect. Let's talk about hedonic and instrumental touch. So touch can be categorized into two types: the hedonic touch and the instrumental touch. So the hedonic touch is touching for pleasures and explorations. So this means touching for fun, driven by curiosity and the desire to for enjoyment, which is the hedonic need. And the customer will focus on sensory aspect of a product or brand. Touching, in this case, touching is to explore and not necessarily to buy that product. For example, like you're holding a luxury handbag in a store and feeling softness later. Um, you doing that, you're touching the handbag purely for enjoyment and without any intention to purchase because you do not have enough the money and you just want to touch the bag. And also, the hedonic touch, like I said, doesn't really lead to direct purchase, but it can create a pleasant emotions and increase the connections with the product. On the other hand, instrumental touch is touching to gather information, either non-haptic or haptic product info, or to evaluate before purchasing. So it has the intention to touch that product. So customers use touch to assess touch features like softness, fabric type, or elasticity. For example, when shopping for jeans, you will touch to check the fabric for its durability, or rub it on your skin to see if it feels comfortable wearing. So the instrumental touch often leads to purchase because we have the intentional to do so. And if the product meets the sensory expectations, we actually buy it. But to mention in conclusion, both hedonic and instrumental touch will help customers evaluate and appreciate a product or brand through technical features. And products are touched, like with hands or finger or skin, before buying, are often linked, are often liked more by customer, and it will have a higher chance of being purchased. So either hedonic or instrumental touch will be a good thing to do with your products and with your brand. Yeah. So you could, which means that store and company should encourage customers to touch things inside the store and touch their products. Let's talk about the applications uh, of touch psychological aspect in sensory marketing. So we talk about hedonic touch and instrumental touch, right? Let's take a deeper look of how it can apply in the sensory marketing. So about the hedonic touch. So design store space with experience zones like cosmetic counters where customer can try lipstick is the signatures illustration of how the hedonic touch is applied in stores. So by doing so, it creates a playful environment that encourages customers to touch and explore, which is a good thing for brands and company. On the other hand, instrumental touch can be applied in the service marketing in digital marketing by offer a product sample like fabric snatch or mattress foam for customer to test before purchasing, especially important in the physical retail. And also we talk about touch influence on purchase behaviors. So an individual attitudes and buying behavior are influenced by positive emotional reactions, like all the previous chapter we've discussed about this many times. So after touching and feeling a brand or product, it can actually create a positive emotion reaction and especially where there are no additional product info available at the point of purchase. So touching is the best way to actually evaluate the products and gaining the positive emotional reactions. And to be mentioned that the length of time a product is touched can impact customer purchase decisions. Like for example, a product that snuggle in the palm or can say fit nicely in the hands may be preferred, even if doesn't look outstanding. But the technical feel builds stronger attachment. So as long as you hold it very long, you hold it, the more time you hold it, the more comfortable you feel. It improves your emotional reactions. You feel comfortable, you feel good, you feel positive, and you're likely to buy it. On the other hand, design elements like shape or surface textures can enhance technical experience. But however, the visual experience may still dominate in some cases. So, like for example, also a smartphone about but another smartphone with a more beautiful design maybe will be purchased if the hand feels less than perfect, but the appearance is peaceful. Customer may have some trade up between the visual and technical sense and make a purchase for the more beautiful designs smartphone. So it's actually uh, no the visual experience and the visual factors may still dominate in some case in some kind of product related to aesthetics. So now moving on to the third part, which is technical perceptions and societal cultures. First, explore what technical perception means. So technical perception is referred to how an individual receives and interprets sensations when being touched by another person or when touching a material of an object or another person's. Therefore, like another sense, each individual had a unique technical perceptions that mainly into key areas, the personal relationship and relationship to the physical properties of objects, like softness or roughness. So some psychological research identify four dimensions of technical perception, which including micro and fine roughness, warmth, like temperatures, hardness, and frictions, like wetness or stickiness. So in societal cultures, uh, technical perception plays an important role on how individuals will perceive and interpret technical stimuli. Let's talk about the individual preference first. So each person will explore and respond to touch in their own ways, depending on the passive touch and active touch that we've mentioned above. They have their own ways to explore their surrounding by technical perception. So we'll talk about the need for touch, in this case, related directly to passive and active touch. So according to Peck and Cheers in 2003, need for touch refers to the extent to which an individual designs touch a product in order to evaluate it. So therefore, a person with a high need for touch will feel the need to touch to better understand the product first, and without that opportunities, they may feel frustrated, doubt, as touch is an essential part of their experience. For example, they might touch a search to assess the fabric before purchasing. And my mom often do so. My mom have a high need for touch whenever it's come to buying clothes for me. And a person with low need for touch, on the other hand, satisfied with just a visual or textual information that doesn't feel the need for direct contact with the product. So, and therefore, we have a solution for those with low need for touch. So when customers do not have a need to touch our product, how can we convince them to buy our product? So we can do that by providing detailed information on packaging or product description that can compensate for the lack of technical experience. It can do so in the online or digital platform too, where touching is not very viable on that case. Also, about shopping behavior. So some people briefly check the product before placing it in the cart, while others will spending time truly touching and examining it. I've talked before. Touch serves both as a problem-solving tools and also a source of excitement and sensory stimulations for the customer. Okay, talk about group preference. So people often use technical attributes such as cold or warm to describe other people. Really, but that's how they do in the societal cultures. And the skin will act as a boundary between self and the outside world. So some individuals will avoid touch because they do not want to be touched by others, and often due to a lack of trust or confidence. So it's really need to be considered in the physical environment that we will discuss later. So friendships and trust are commonly symbolized through physical gestures like handshake or a hug, regardless of group affiliations and cultural background. So in almost every background and every cultures, handshake or hugging each other represents like trust and bonding kind of feeling. However, there are also differences in group in touching preference across culture too. There's not always be similar. Mm, It will depends on the cultures of each country too. Not always the same. So therefore, brain must adapt to the use of touch according to cultural norms of that country or that areas. We're coming to the gender difference. So men and women will react differently to touch. Women would tend to have greater need for touch when evaluating products such as clothing or shoes. Men, on the other hand, focus on instrumental touching, using touch to assess functions and qualities to actually making purchase. In the social context, uh, related to touching, anger is most likely to be communicated through touch, when at least there were males in the group, and on the other hand, sympathy are more likely to be expressed by women, especially when there are at least one female is presented. And therefore, both gender tend to touch the member of the opposite sex more, and women would tend to touch men more frequently than men touching women. Weird. And lastly, we talk about touch symbolisms. So in general, touch symbolizes belonging and emotional closeness in relationships with relative and friends. Conversely, being touched is a painful, uncomfortable way can express discontent, rejections, and hatred and emotional coldness. And touch, therefore, carry two symbolic dimensions. It can either feel warm, inviting, or it can either feel cold and distant. So for example, applying in uh, the context of service and products and business, like a warm chair in a cafe will create a feeling of friendliness. On the other hand, the cold surface on the industrial machine will evoke a sense of attachment. That's how touching feels, touching work, and how it's represented and symbolized. And therefore, touch is a cultural symbol that holds many meanings in different society and connect to our inner emotions and human understanding. So, in each country, in each culture, there will be different ways that the touch will express, different meaning that the touch will express. So, the brands and company need to accordingly uh, adapt to that cultures to actually use the sense of touch effectively. So in the fourth part, we talk about touch in service environment. So talk about tactical stimuli first. So in physical service environment, tactical stimuli will influence our sense of touch. And this not only involves touching brands and products or relations, but it also how technical elements contribute to creating a pleasant and appealing atmosphere for the customer. So some technical factors such as air flows, material textures, temperatures, and surface quality this all affect customer cognitions and emotions toward the service environment. And if the atmosphere and designs encourage physical and emotional interactions with the brand and product, therefore it can lead to unplanned purchase and impulse buying of the customer. So therefore, why I tell that encourage touching is very necessary in a physical environment. Before, um, but however, in digital or online service environments, physical touching brands and products is likely impossible. Therefore, we use image or written descriptions of products attributes to complement the experience of touching. But however, like I said, cannot fully replace the physical touch of the in-store experience. Talking about touching brands and products, so individual will seek physical and mental interaction with brand and products to better understand about their characteristics. So therefore, touching provide sensory information and sensations about product before making a purchase is very necessary for the customer in making the decision to buy a product or not. And according to Pick and Wikis in 2006, confidence in brands will depend on whether customer can touch and feel the product in the service environment or not. And if they can't, it can encourage a purchase decision making of them, making them likely to uh, have confidence in brands, confidence in products, and they're likely to buy it. For example, like holding a load of bread, check its freshness will have customer trust in its quality, and if it meets the expectation of the bread, like the crust and the warmness of the bread, they feel the bread meeting expectation, then they will buy it. Simply like that. So therefore, companies should design store environments to allow customers to physically touch and feel the products to actually encourage the purchase decisions. Let's talk about also, encouraging and motivating customers to pick up, touch, and feel the brand or product will also lead to a positive attitude toward the brand because, like I've said, it fosters the confidence in the brand and the product. And also, the eye reading sign, like for example, labels, signage, that's stimulating the sense of touch by providing the complementary sensory informations will also help in encourage touching customer to actually touching the products that the brand wants them to touch. For example, when the customer seeing the word soft on the labels, and then they would touch it to confirming what the sign has said, the label has said, and they seen it uh, as a true because touching it feel soft, it will enhance their experience. So coming to the material properties and geometrical properties of products. So people actually tend to prefer product with material properties like softness, textures in the physical retail environment because the sense of touch will provide like new sensory input through physical interactions like testing the hardness or the softness. Therefore, it's leading to emotional experience based on how the product feels. If it feels good, then our emotion will be positive, we'll be happy, and we'll be relaxed. So companies selling products with material properties like clothing, footwear, furnituring should ensure customer will have the opportunity to touch and feel the product in store to foster the positive emotions experience of them, therefore pushing these purchase decisions. For example, like IKEA. IKEA's very signatures illustrations of how this work of our applying sense of touch in the service environment because IKEA has a whole large experiential areas for customers to try their furniture and by exploring the textures of each product before taking them home, making IKEA a very suitable place for furniture shopping for customers. However, in the digital environment, I've said the lack of opportunities for customers to physically touch the brand and product, especially those that require meaningful sensory input, like t-shirts, skirts, fashions, products. So these items are less likely to be purchased online, obviously. So people with high need for touch, high NFT, like I talked about, often avoid online shopping for products that require tactical interactions like fashions, furniture. Therefore, companies should are focused on price and quality in the digital space instead of trying to stimulate the sense. It never compared to the in-store experience. It never. Okay, let's talk about being touched by other in the service environment. So interpersonal contact is considered uh, essential as the need for food is necessary through our life because it helps develop and strengthen the relationships and reduce anxiety and stress. So when being touched by others, individual may form a positive impressions of that person, and which can increase commitment, trust, and sense of belonging and therefore brands store should apply this insights and this knowledge into the physical environment because in physical service environment even unconscious touch like such as mm, employee placing hand on customer hands or arm can also influence the brand image and lead to a more positive customer response. So it's increase the image of the brand, the product, the employee in the eye of the customer in a positive way. So why not fostering that into our service environment, right? Lastly, we'll talk about brands, touch in brands and products. So for firstly, let's talk about technical stimuli. So technical cues and stimuli such as hardness, material, shape, softness, textures, and weight of a product are important elements of a brand product's identity. So, for example, the shape and fiberboard and weight of an Asus laptop influence how customer will evaluate its technical qualities. So, the best way to understand these technical characteristics is through touching with hands and fingers through the haptic system, like I said above. And the more technical features of product have, like for example, clothing furniture, the more likely the individuals are to touch and feel it before making a purchase decision. And it's a very good thing, like I mentioned before. So about haptics touch in product evaluations. So when people using their fingers and hands to evaluate products, it has been shown that what they said and what they do actually align with each other. So individual was spending more time touching products than that having the tactical stimuli that talk both such as wool sweaters or tennis rackets compared to the products that lack tactical stimuli, which are often relate visuals only based on packaging and verbal informations. Therefore, real products are preferred during product evaluations compared to just visual products, which are only represent to image and text. And therefore, based on the need for haptic touch, product can be classified into three levels: high degree, like Apple B sheet or mobile phone, clothing, sofa, soft toy; moderate degrees, like pillows, camera, orange carpets; and low degrees, like electronic, classware, and pens accessories. So people tend to want to touch both hard and soft products to get a sense of their quality, even if the product is from a famous brand or offer at a low price. They also want to touching the product to examine and evaluate it. So therefore, brands, stores, company should encourage it. Should encourage make find a way to encourage customer and creating opportunities for them to actually be able to touching a product before making a purchase. And for fast-moving consumer goods like biscuit or toothpaste, consumer perception is more influenced by the visual stimuli than by touch. They rely on more packaging than physical touch in the product. So the importance of haptic touch depends on the type of product and how much time the individual is willing to spend on to evaluating it. So brands, companies should take this into mind when placing products and encouraging touching in their uh, service environment and their products. They should apply it appropriately. So talk about haptic touch and other stimuli, shall we? So the interactions between vision and touch means that certain stimuli are perceived more strongly by one sense than the others, and therefore the visual system is generally stronger in receiving sensory information than the sense of touch. But together, vision and touch will dominate the individual perceptions of the brand. So it's likely to be the most two important sense that shaping the perceptions of a brand. For haptic products such as clothing, chairs, fabric, papers, encourage touching is essential because their surface properties provides important sensory information for evaluations that the customer needs to know before making the purchase. Lastly, talk about touch symbolisms. So touch symbolism refers to the process whereby the touch of an object or product creates meaning for an individual. Take an example, like the weight of a product is often associated with the durabilities and the qualities. So usually, heavier furniture is perceived by customer as a more valuable than the other lighter furnitures. So how product views can directly influence whether or not people decide to buy it through the perception they think about the product. Talk about haptic signatures, shall we? So haptic signatures refer to how a company will connect individual to brands and product through tactile sensations by activate brand knowledge, influence brand recall and choice. For example, like for smartphones, Apple and Samsung will use the smooth touchscreen for the iPhone or Galaxy as their haptic signatures. So how it feels in the hands or during use will actually encourage customer to know more about the brand and therefore influence their recall and choice when uh, mm, evaluate the product and choosing what to buy. In the car field, Audi, BMW, or Ford actually design steering wheel and gear shift with unique technical feedback like vibrations to actually connect drivers emotionally with the brands, therefore encourage purchase. And in conclusion, haptic signature will enhance brand recognitions and emotional attachments of customer toward the brand. Thus, haptic experience. Okay, so talking about haptic experience, so company can create haptic experience by involving customer in touch-based activities that are tied to product evaluations. For example, like several offering of free contouring tutorials that allow customer to touch and test products like neon light highlighter, creating a personalized sensory experience. So the products should match the customer expectations of how it should be feel when held in the hands. So in conclusion, personalized touch experience will increase the satisfactions and the brand attachment. Lastly, talking about haptic technology. So haptic technology will involve using pressure, texture, vibrations, and other tactile sensations in the product to actually foster a sense of touch in the experience of the customer. For example, like the Apple Watch will use haptic engines that produce a gentle tap when pressing the button or receiving notifications, which enabling the discrete communication between customer and the product itself. So that's also the end of the chapter 6 and also the end of the sensory marketing section 3. Thank you for listening and let's take a look at the next sensory marketing section 4. Thank you.